Okay, we'd like to call the meeting to order in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act. Tara, roll call, please.
Sure. Bob Puskis.
Here.
Al Pachalik.
Here.
Craig Feibel.
Here.
Michael Piakos.
Here.
Kathy Blooming is not here, and Rick Johnson is not here. And Councilman Chase is not here either.
Okay. Tara, are there any public logged in?
There's no members of the public.
Okay, so we can forego that. Next week, I believe it'd be the minutes to approve the minutes as
You
presented.
sent around the June 3rd minutes for everyone.
Move to approve.
We get a second?
Second.
All in
Okay.
favor, aye.
Aye.
Minutes are approved as presented. Next on the agenda, I believe would be old business, correct, Tara?
Next is we have new business. I just did
new
you
business.
guys all the county preservation plan, the farmland preservation elements.
Yep, go ahead, take charge of that, Tara.
Okay, so you guys all got the memo that I put together. So, I mean, I'm sure you all can go through this memo in detail, but basically I just wanted to go over a few of the highlights and then let you know that, we can submit our written comment because this is the final draft. So they had meetings in January and June of 2018, and then also in January of 2020. And now this is the presentation of the final draft of the whole preservation plan. So it's an update of the 2008 farmland plan, an update of the 2001 open space plan, and then a creation of a historic preservation plan, which has never existed. And then there's one part of the document that discusses the overlap between those three programs, ways that funding can be leveraged to kind of maximize preservation on the same property or adjacent properties. And then this whole aspect of how to measure success across preservation using, health and wellness as an indicator, not just looking at, how many acres we have preserved, but, how many acres benefit ecological and habitat, how many are within 10 to 15 minutes walking distance of residents, how much is open for recreation, things like that. So for our purposes, I reviewed the overlapping document and the preservation plan. So just one quick note to put out there is that the preservation plan in its total is almost 900 pages long. So it's just like something to keep in mind. It's 876 pages total. Now, each element can act as a standalone document. So the farmland plan is 252 pages, which is long for a plan, but it does, the state puts out, the SADC puts out very strict criteria of what has to be in farmland preservation plans. So they did meet all of the criteria that's required. So that's good. They also put together a table of recommendations at the end. So it summarizes all the recommendations throughout the plan, and then they put it in one table, which I thought was helpful. And we can go through that if you want. Just some quick statistics. So there's 42,543 preserved acres in Somerset County, which is 22% of the county's land area. Of that, 8,373 acres are preserved as farmland in the county. And there's an additional almost a little over 18,000 acres identified as targeted farms. One interesting thing that popped right out to me is that the average cost per acre for farmland preservation in Somerset County is $25,000 an acre. So that's actually the highest cost per acre in the state. And probably in most of the country. That's for development easement. Now that's the average. So that takes into account Bedminster, Montgomery, places that have very high land values traditionally, but that's the average. So
that noted as determined in 2010.
That's the most recent data that they have. I do have
Right.
a note there, and it's like, is that the most recent data? But it is, yeah.
I'm just saying it probably now it's substantially more.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. What else here? One interesting that popped up, I noticed, is that according to the 2017 Census of Ag, there's 876 acres that are irrigated in Somerset County, and that was a jump of 300 acres from the 2012 Census of Ag. So that's something that's interesting. I don't know if it's something we need to keep an eye on, but just interesting. Excuse me. Horticulture represents 50% of all farm sales in the county. And as you can probably imagine, hay represents 63.8% of all cropland harvested in the county. What else? Okay, so there was some references specific to Franklin Township. So Franklin, along with Hillsborough, Montgomery, and P-PAC were the only municipalities to show growth in the fruit sector since the 2008 plan. There's 19 acres of berry production in Somerset County, and Franklin is home to 15 of those acres. Franklin's also 99% of the turkey count. Oh, out of the turkey county. That's cute. I said 99% of the turkey county in Somerset. It's turkey count in Somerset County is in Franklin. And then another interesting thing was Franklin, along with Hillsborough and Montgomery, was one of the only municipalities in the county to have more than 100 equine units. So I also in the memo, you'll see I put together a little chart instead of just writing numbers about how Franklin has changed between 1997 and 2015, according to their plan in some of the major sectors. So I did field crops, vegetables, fruits, berries, and nurseries. So we went down in almost all of those fields except for fruits and berries, and that is consistent with the trend in the state. The goal of the plan is they want to preserve 16,000 acres by the year of 2030. So right now they have 8,373 acres. They want to get to 16,000 by 2030, which is a very ambitious goal, but you know, maybe they'll be able to make it or close, which would be great. One good thing they did in this plan, very good thing. There's a lot of good things they did, but one very good thing was the minimum acre for county farmland preservation was 25 acres in 2008. They've now reduced it down to 10 acres. So the county can now participate in farmland preservation on properties that are 10 acres and above. And it used to be 25 acres, which was very prohibitive for some municipalities. Some of the things I noticed right away, so agritourism, they do touch on in the plan, but I think I sent this in my last comments. They really should focus more on agritourism, especially because of the on-farm direct marketing A&P, which was passed in 2013. And that has provided for a lot of allowances for agritourism on farm properties. And it's also set site standards where CADBs can actually approve site standards without municipal planning review. So that's a huge change. A lot of farms have taken advantage of it. So I think it needs to be discussed more in the county plan. The amendments to the Right to Farm Act that allow for equine housing, equine agriculture labor housing, they weren't mentioned in this plan. Now, granted, that memo came out probably right as they hit print on this plan. It was in the same month. But being that this is the final draft, maybe they can get it in there because those are very important amendments, especially because they only relate to equine. They did touch on emergency preparedness, but not a whole lot. So I had put the recommendation that they probably should maybe discuss that a little further. And the other thing is that the soil protection standards are not talked about in this plan. They're not yet passed by the state, but they will be passed soon. And there was that informal draft that came out. That's going to have a major effect on preserved farms, already preserved, and those that are being preserved, and on how staff have to monitor farms and how violations are issued. So I think that needs to get in there, even though I know adding these things after the plan's already kind of in final draft is irritating, but they're really important. And this plan's not going to get updated for another 10 years. So it's, you know, kind of important. And then lastly, there wasn't really much discussion on wildlife management. There was maybe a few paragraphs, but not a whole lot. So my recommendation would be that they discuss that more, what the impacts are of farms, and maybe look at a few municipal programs to get some idea about how it's, you know, working across the county. And then I just took the chart from the county plan and I put it right in this memo, and it summarizes the goals throughout the plan. There's a lot of them. And to me, they all seem to be pretty good plans, of course, you know, goals. Of course, some of them are lofty and a little theoretical, but that's typical for, you know, a plan of this nature. Some of them are more exact, which is great. But I think, you know, they were all doable and they all make sense as far as I'm concerned. So, I kind of wanted to just let you know that that's the status of the plan. It is in final draft and they are accepting written comment on the plan. So if you are all good with these recommendations and comments, I can submit them. It's a digital form, so it's not like a formal letter, but I can submit them in the digital form and I'm happy to add any that anyone has or take any away from here, you know, based on your review.
And when do they have to be in by, Tara?
You know, it doesn't say on the website. I keep looking for what is the date that they have to be in. They haven't put out the actual deadline. They just had the last public hearing on October 5th. So I'm assuming it's 30 days from then. So I mean, my goal would be we should get it in by the end of the month.
Right. Okay. Now their goal is 16,000 preserved acres. That they want to preserve another 8,000 farm acres.
Yes.
Well, my take on trying to get another 8,000, if the soil protection standards come out the way they're talking about coming out, you're not going to get, you ain't gonna get anybody to go on the program.
Right.
I couldn't, if they came out with those standards the way they're proposed, if somebody came to me and wanted to know about the preservation program, to be honest with you, I would tell them not to do it.
I know those standards are very, very strict and restrictive, and they put a lot of onus on municipal staff and county staff to find those violations, monitor them, remediate them. So it's a lot. But, you know, those aren't even mentioned in this plan at all. And like I said, they're not officially adopted yet, but I mean, the state is going to adopt them because they've put them out there for review and maybe they might make a few changes, but they're going to get adopted, especially because of the Den Hollander case, the greenhouse case in Hunterdon County.
Right.
They were basically told by the court, you have to put something down in regulations as it relates to soil movement and soil standards. So I think it should be mentioned in the plan. Although that is a good thing for you guys to let me know what you think about it. I mean, they're not passed, so maybe they don't get mentioned in the plan.
Right. That's possible, but like I say, you know, from the scuttle I'm hearing from the ag community is that, you know, they want to make these restrictions, you know, going forward is one thing, but the big bugaboo is that they want to try to, you know, I signed a contract with these conditions. Now you're changing the conditions. That's kind of the big holdup as far as anybody coming close to supporting these things.
Right. No, I agree. I know there's a lot of pushback.
Oh. Anybody have any questions to Tara or comments about the plan? Because I read over it. What Tara sent out. There is a lot of stuff to digest.
Mm-hmm. Recommendations sound good to me.
All right.
You say if anybody any comments, want to write any comments, get them to Tara. She'll submit them.
Al, you all good with that or?
Yeah.
Okay. So I am going to work on them. My goal will be to send them, I'll say by the end of the month. So if you guys think of anything different before then, you know, feel free to send me an email. And I mean, I can submit the digital form multiple times if I have to too. So that's not a problem.
All right, great. All right, what's up? Anything else on new business, Tara?
That's it for new business.
All right, moving on to old business.
Okay, we have, oops, I'm in the minutes. Hang on one sec here. So we have on here the database of active applications. I haven't done any additional work on that at this point. I don't know if you guys all remember the last meeting we discussed, you know, that Michael had come up with the idea of putting together this database of active applications. And it has, you know, the milestones that we achieve as we go through the preservation process, like when were the appraisals ordered, when were they received, when was the offer made, when was the survey ordered, things like that. So I have it available. I've filled in some of the recent data related to one of the properties we're working on, but there hasn't been really many changes for me to document at this point. So, I guess, do we want to have me just continue to fill that out for the one I'm working on and then see how it works at the, as we move toward the end of that?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Tara.
But why don't you send it out like once a month with,
I could send it out. The only thing is that it has to be we would have to make it like a confidential document that can't be shared because a lot of the information on there is privileged still. So that's the only concern. I mean, I don't mind sending it to you guys and I'm not worried about you. I just have to put that out there that it has to remain confidential.
Yeah, I don't think, personally, I don't think it's a good idea to send it every month because of that. And if we talk to town about it, I think the town manager would probably put a big kibosh on that. I mean, it's a lot of the information in those documents, what goes on is private until it's actually closed and paid for.
but if you don't send it out, what's the point of doing it?
Yeah, Tara.
I was just gonna say, I feel like the point in doing it is like to have it on file of how we've gone through the preservation process and what the steps we've taken were and when. We have all that information for every property. We just don't typically have it in one
Mhm.
spreadsheet. So I guess it's like a recording system. I could send it out if it's requested, I guess. I don't know. Or we can talk about it in executive session.
Yeah,
As
right.
I mentioned the last time, the issue of the appraisal values are very confidential, so they don't have to be put in until they're approved. But, you could still fill out, I don't think anything's confidential about the date you award a contract to the engineering company or the date you award a contract to the appraisal company or the date that the request came in. I don't
Yeah.
see it being confidential, but if it is, the CIA and the FBI, they issue memos to their employees, so I think we could do it too.
If we just leave the dates in, Bob, what do you think about that? Like when we're working on a project, like if we're not working on anything for that month, I guess we don't have to do anything.
Right. There's nothing going on and there's no sense of working, doing any paperwork.
And we can discuss that in executive session, when we do have an executive session monthly, we can run through it because that's not, that's executive session anyway.
Right, exactly.
Does that work or what do you guys think?
That sounds good. It's probably useful to be able to pull up when we need it to refer to. But
Right.
other than that, I think it's a good record to have.
Okay, so we can discuss that for sure in executive session, and then this way we know it's confidential for when it has to be, and then when things close, it goes onto our preserved database anyway, which then, everything's out there.
All righty. Next up, Tara, next on the list.
Next up is just some brief updates on the hunting season. So one update is the former Farm Credit East property, which is the County Route 518 property, we call it, for hunting. The permits there have been suspended for this season because there was some problems encountered with a neighbor of the property that the driveway that goes into the property is very narrow because it has not been used in quite some time. The goal was for our DPW to clear it so that 4 cars could be in there and then the rest of the cars would park on a side street or down the road how they do for other properties that don't have parking. But as soon as we began, we had some issues with some of the neighbors because they're saying that the driveway is so narrow and it's going right by their property line. And that, it's not been used in so long and it's going to back up traffic. So basically right now, those permits have been suspended while we investigate how we can make the driveway more usable so we can reinstate those permits next year, we hope, for the hunting program. And also if that driveway is not going to work, where we can direct parking, but we basically need to do some investigation into that. So anyone that had a permit there for the former Farm Credit East property is just got permits for 10 Mile Run instead. And other than that, that's the only update I have for hunting. So far, we gave out all of the permits for all of our sites, except we do have permits left at 10-mile run, but that's a huge site anyway, so we always have permits left. But all of our smaller sites have all been permits given out, and seems like, so far it's been okay.
All right, Tara, and just to let the committee also know that we're going down to myself as chair of the open space committee, and we're going to have the wildlife committee and some people from open space go down and look at the property and get a little more hands-on. Hopefully, you do that sooner than later and try to get this mess figured out. But
Yes, we are gonna do that. I have to schedule that meeting next week. Yep.
okay, so okay, moving along. Is that it for new business?
Hang on one sec. Al's just asking what property is that? It's the former Farm Credit East property. So I think the address is 41 County Route 518. It's the property that we just got recently, right off of 518, and it's by where that compressor station was gonna be. And we just got ownership of it, and right in time for hunting season. We haven't done anything to it except for give out 10 permits for hunting there because it is completely wooded and there are a lot of deer there. But the hunters didn't even hunt there yet. So we're gonna try and do this. And Al, you'll be coming to that meeting if you can, whenever we schedule it.
Okay.
So yeah, just so we can investigate the access there. That's it. Go ahead, Bob.
All right. Yep. If there's no more new business, do we need to go? There's no publics.
Oh, I'm sorry. There was one more thing for
Okay.
old business, just very brief again, is the stewardship of the grasslands. So the grasslands preserves have both been mowed. DPW mowed them. There are some standing trees, invasive trees, and larger woody vegetation that need to be removed, which we are trying to work through that. But the bulk of both properties have been mowed. I also spoke to George Effinger. He's our contact at the New Jersey Forest Fire Safety Service, and they administer the prescribed burn program. They perform the prescribed burn. So he actually just called me the day before yesterday, and he had all of our burn plans approved at the staff level. He has the drawings done. He's getting the notice ready. So he needs to basically get the final approval from his supervisor. And then we can, that means that we're approved for burning. So that should happen. I thought it was going to be January to April, but he said it could even be December to April if he can move fast enough. So it looks like that's definitely going to be approved. So besides the mowing that we've done there, we'll be burning 2 large sections at Negri Napodi, and then the same sections that we burned last year at Griggstown. And
Great. That sounds good. That's a plus. Hopefully they'll get. I know they've been working on Negri Napodi some more. I see some more stuff mowed there, but so yeah, a burn will be a good thing.
good. Okay, and that is it for old business.
All right, very good. Next up would be if there's any public to go up in public session.
No
Anybody
public.
log on?
No public.
Do we need to go in executive session, Tara?
No.
Anybody have any other questions or comments for Tara or myself or whatever? Or if not, we're gonna get a motion to adjourn. No, hearing none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Al made the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys.